Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about my top 5 favorite Victorinox Swiss Army knives. This is not all the knives that I use, but these are the top 5 that I enjoy using quite a lot. And I'll go over some of the reasons why I use them in my daily EDC activities, which includes being around town and or working. Here in the table we can see a variety of different tools. We have, starting from left to right, we have the Victorinox CybertooL Lite, Victorinox Swiss Champ, Victorinox Huntsman Lite, Victorinox Midnite Minichamp, and the Midnite Manager is the last one. So let's go over the tool sets of the CybertooL Lite briefly here. And these are going to be similar to some of the tool sets in the Huntsman and the Swiss Champ, so we won't go over all the tool sets of every single one, just to save some time here. We have our small pin blade knife here. We have our main pin blade, and we have the scissors, which is second to none in the multi-tool world. These are very precise and very sharp. We have the pliers with a needle nose type of section at the very top, a regular section in the center here, and a very tiny wire cutter there, and a wire bender. Moving along, we do have the namesake of the CybertooL. This is the interchangeable driver bit. These are 4mm bits here, and they're being held in place by a ball pin in the bit here, and they're double-sided. Then we have our magnifying glass, and we also have our light, namesake of the tool here. And then we have our slotted screwdrivers, which we have a mini one here with the can opener, and we also have our bigger slotted screwdriver here with a wire bender and a cap lifter as well. Going to the scale tools on all these 91mm platforms, they're all the same. They're all plus scales. They all have the same tools. That being said, this is the pen section, which makes this a plus scale. Great for writing. And in this place, we normally would have a toothpick, but I have a aftermarket Fireflies mod, which has a ferro bar there where we can scrape that and start a fire. We have our corkscrew here with our small slotted screwdriver for working on eyeglasses, and inside all the scales, they're all plus scales, they all have a slot for a small pin. So we have that. In the back, it's going to be a little bit different for each model, but in this model we have our hook, and then we also have our awl here with a sewing eyelet, and then we have the key ring as well. So that's all the tools of the CybertooL Lite. Let's get over to the Champ, which has a little bit more tools. And we'll go over the tools that's on the Champ versus what's equally shared between the two. We already have the slotted screwdrivers at the end, the mirror, or rather the lens, magnifying lens. But with the exception of having a Lite module there, we have in place of that the 3D Phillips head screwdriver, because this doesn't have the interchangeable driver bit. And this is in a 90-degree angle and in a inline fashion. We have our pair of pliers here, scissors, and starting from the different stuff, we have the fish descaler is what they call it, but it has centimeter measurements on it, and it also has inches on it, as well as a hook degorger. I don't use this for fish descaling, but I tend to think of it as a ruler and a butter knife spreader if I need to. And we also have the saw, which we find on the Huntsman. It's also on the Swiss Champ, which is not on the CybertooL Lite. And then we have our file here, a 3-sided file. It's a metal file on the bottom. We have 2 sides here, single hatch on either side. And we also have our pin blade and smaller pin blade on the outer side here, which is the same across all the models. And once again, the scale tools are the same on either side, along with the corkscrew and the smaller slotted screwdriver and the pin in the scale. But what's different on the back of the Swiss Champ, which has the most comprehensive tool set on the back, we have a small chisel here. And then we also have a slotted screwdriver for the back, a smaller, thinner one in a torquing position. And we have our typical hook and also the eye reamer or the sewing eyelet inside the, I forget what we call this, but the awl, that's it. So basically the awl is the same in all 3 models. And that's the Swiss Champ in a nutshell. Moving along to the Huntsman Lite, it's thinner. Has very similar tool set features compared to both the CybertooL Lite and the Swiss Champ, namely the Swiss Champ. But in place of the module of the magnifying glass, we have the Lite here for one of the scales, and we have our 3D Phillips head screwdriver. We have our two standard slotted screwdrivers with the combo tools, the bottle cap lifter and can opener here. And we have our scissors, and we also have the two knives, the longer pin blade and the shorter one. Same scale tools, same exact corkscrew with the eye slotted tool and the pin in the scale, and also same tweezers here, and same pen, same ferro rod. On the back, though, we do have a slightly different variation compared to the CybertooL. We just have the same thing as the Swiss Champ. We have a slotted screwdriver here in the back. We have the hook, and we have the awl with the selling eyelet with the Huntsman Lite. So basically, it's a smaller, thinner version with reduced tool sets compared to these tools on the left here. Moving down to the 58mm platform, we have the Midnite Manager, not Midnite Manager, but the Midnite Minichamp. Next to it is the Midnite Manager, but we're going to go over the Minichamp briefly here. We have our 3-combo tool here. This is a Phillips head screwdriver with a magnetism at the tip, a wire bender here slot, and a cap lifter. And then we also have our pin blade here. And then we have our pair of scissors, which are highly sharp. And then we also have, on the other side, we have our cuticle pusher or medical spatula. And then we also have our smaller measuring part here with a slotted screwdriver at the tip. And then we also have the sheep's foot blade, or rather the orange peel box cutter. And then we have our sheep's foot blade here. So it's a little bit thinner version of the main knife and as a backup cutter, if you will. And then we have our nail file here with a pointed tip. Usually nail files come in either the pointed tip or the slotted screwdriver tip. Since they already have a slotted screwdriver on one of these, they put the pointed tip on here for poking. And on the scales, we have a pen here, which the other model would have, I believe. And in place of the tweezers, we have a white LED light for the second version of this. The older version would have a red LED. So we have a white LED in here in our Midnite Minichamp. Moving over, we have the Midnite Manager, which is a thinner version of the Minichamp. It just has the 3-combo tool here, a blade, and we also have the nail file. But again, on the nail file, they put the slotted screwdriver here. I got some oil on my hands from my oiling of the tool. And then we also have scissors. And then we have the same exact scale tool as the pen and the white LED light, as this is the second version of the Midnite Manager. First version also has a red LED. So now we've gone through the entire tool set of all these. I can go over why I like each and every one of them. The one I've been using the most is the CybertooL Lite. And the reason I've been using it the most is that it complements my setup for outdoor work and at my job. And I typically carry it in a carrier, which I'll get out here for you. This is my Viper 8 VE3, and I find that this slots in the front pocket very nicely. I have a bunch of writing tools in here, a writing pad, extra lights, and even the back has a couple extra accessories. This is a great little small EDC kit that I use in my front pocket at work, and fits very well. And the Huntsman Lite and the CybertooL Lite slot in there perfectly, as well as the Swiss Champ, but I don't use that in that particular setup. The reason why I carry this is the bit driver section is amazing to use for repairing electronics. It doesn't capture every single type of screw out there, but it does have a good reach, and the light is in line with the screwdriver tip, so you can see what you're bearing down on, which is very nice. I find that a very useful feature to have, along with the scissors. Again, these scissors are second to none in the multi-tool world, in my opinion. I've used this quite a lot. Almost every single day I've used a pair of scissors with these kinds of tools. So that becomes very invaluable to me in a EDC tool. The pen is icing on the cake, in my opinion, because I do sign stuff, and occasionally I lend out a pen of mine, which is why you see I have several in my kit. This one has a backup one, which is great to have in this 91mm platform. So it's my favorite tool, top of the line out of all these so far that I've used, and it's the most used one that I have. And I use it in conjunction with the Victorinox Forester, which I have here. I'll go over the tools with this real quick. This has got a locking blade here with a liner lock, and we also have a bunch of other bigger tools. Again, the combo slotted can opener tool, and we also have the bottle cap lifter wire bender tool here, and that I believe also locks. And then we also have the more important part of this, which is I'm trying to get it out here, the saw, which is a longer saw. And on this Forester, it fits very well with, it pairs very well, I should say, with the CybertooL Lite. As this gets a lot of the outdoor work done, this gets more of the electronical work done, and they cover each other pretty well. This doesn't have a pair of scissors on it, but this does. So it works very well with this in conjunction together. So that's why I pair it with the Forester when I'm working, and why this is in my top 5. Not to not mention that this doesn't have honorable mention, as I use this quite a lot, but that's the reasoning behind it. Moving over to the Swiss Champ, the reason why it's in my top 5 is because it has the most amount of tools for the size to weight ratio of most Victorinox knives that I've seen and used. That being said, I do use a metal file sometimes, and that's just really nice to have. I do use a saw, as we just covered before, although it's slightly smaller than the Forester, but it still works pretty well. And having a magnifying glass, again, is very useful, again, for working with ham radio parts numbers, looking at the capacitor numbers and resistors, and trying to see what color matching I'm doing, etc., starting fires, all that. This CybertooL has it tool on it to the lens, but this is nice to have on the Swiss Champ. And the Swiss Champ is just rugged and beefy and has all the tools on the scale, which I like. And the chisel does come in handy too on this particular model for me. And that's why I use the Swiss Champ, although I don't use it as much as the CybertooL Lite. Moving over to the Huntsman Lite, if I want something very lightweight and not, relatively speaking, compared to these models, lightweight, and not as big as these, I'll take one of these because it still has this saw on it, which I will use if I'm not looking to use the Forester and I just want to have a pair of scissors and a saw, but not the weight of the Swiss Champ, but the usability of a Lite. I'll go with the Huntsman Lite. And this has the added bonus of having a inline 3D Phillips head screwdriver compared to the regular Huntsman, which I don't have here, which does not have this extra layer here. So it lacks that, and also the bonus scales, or the plus scales, if you will. So having a 3D screwdriver along with a saw is pretty handy for my uses. Once again, the same scale tools apply. Having the pen, having the ferro seam rod, and tweezers has come in handy. Fun thing to note is I actually use these pins to dig out splinters when I'm in the woods, and a coworker had something in her hand and she couldn't get out. I gave her the pair of tweezers here and the pin, and they were able to get it out and kind of fix themselves with that. So these tools do come in handy, not just for myself but for others as well, and that's part of the reason why I carry them. Moving over to the 58mm variants, the reason why I like the Midnite Minichamp is that it has everything that I could ever want and extra. I like having extra blades, particularly the sheepsfoot blade is really nice to have. This is one of the few models that has it, and has the pen and light module inside of it, along with the 3D Phillips head screwdriver combo tool here. And once again, the scissors are second to none. Even though they're on the smaller scale, they still cut very well and very true. And it's just a great little small tool to have. I don't put it on my keychain because it's a little bit heavy for the keychain. However, I do carry it in my pocket with this little lanyard here to keep attached and tethered to my belt. So it is a very useful model to have, especially with the pen part. I might be lending out a pen to a friend, or I might not be able to use it or grab it right away. So I go to this and I can just sign a check or something really quick and be in and out, which is really nice about the Midnite Minichamp. Going back to the more minimalistic style is the Midnite Manager. The reason why this is in my favorites is because it's on my keychain and it's just simple to use. It's got the pin in here again for quick access, the light for quick access. This comes really handy if I can't kind of activate my old Lite i5R, the first version. You have to turn and twist it. This one I just grab, push it on and off real quick. It's not bright, doesn't wake up anybody, and doesn't use that much power to kind of temporarily see something. And I do like that in a push button LED. So the second variant of the white LEDs instead of the red LEDs comes in handy. I currently have the red one on my keychain, but I swapped this in and out with that. And that's why it's my favorite, because it still has the utility of a 3D Phillips head screwdriver with a blade, with this pair of scissors, and a light, and a writing tool. So basically it has a writing tool, a cutting tool, and a lighting tool. So it's all three in one, and it's similar to the Victorinox Signature Lite in that it has those three items, but this one just has the 3D Phillips head screwdriver, which is a great little bang for your buck. Now, honorable mentions, sometimes what I'll do in some of my kits, I'll pair up with a Victorinox Esquire Lite or Microlite That's what this is. This is sort of a slightly bigger version of the bigger than the 58 millimeters. I think this is like a 65 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken. But the reason why I like having this in my kit as the other honorable mention, in addition to the Forester, is because the scissors are a Wenger design, meaning they're a little bit more stronger. They are they have these little grooves in it for gripping material a little bit easier, which I do like and prefer. And the spring's a little bit more resilient, and I love that in it. And once again, I'm a big fan of lights in my multi-tools. This has 2 batteries in it, and it's a temporary switch-on light. Not as bright as these models, but it lasts a little bit longer. And we also have these nice bigger pen blades, which is really cool to have. And this is the nail file part. Again, this is the pokey one. And then we also have our main blade here. So very simple, very thin, sleek type of tool. Not to mention it has an internal facing pick, or tweezers rather, which I find very useful, and I like that idea of turning them around so they don't accidentally get pulled off out of the slots, although that's kind of rare. So honorable mention is the Microlite Esquire, which I do have in my daily EDC kit. So those are my top 5 Victorinox Swiss Army knives. I thought I'd share with you why I like them and why I carry them, and the honorable mentions. I want to thank you for watching, and enjoy your day.